Dun, dun, dun.
This is the Justuff League.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Justuff League. Yes, that was stepped harmonization.
Yeah, it was like a stepped harmonization for sure.
Before we get going today, we have a huge throwback in that we have a Jeopardy-style start to the episode.
Good, because I'm so good at these.
Question, here we go. Is everybody ready?
I'm ready.
My question before Jeopardy is, did you learn how Jeopardy worked yet?
We shall find out in the way
200
of
plus
asking
episodes into it.
this question. This nationally prominent manufacturer of hand-carved and gilded picture frames operated from 1883 to 1979 and known for their designs that reflected the aesthetics of the arts and crafts movement.
Who is Nuka Macklin?
I mean, I'm going to say Aaron Brothers. Who is Aaron Brothers?
The answer, producer Kyle?
Who gives a shit? Why are we talking about this?
And the answer goes to Mr. Kevin Bruno with the correct answer. Instant reaction.
That's
Yes,
kind of a pro.
Nuka Macklin Company out of Chicago, Illinois. Listen to that. What was that weird word I just said?
Illinois.
Illinois.
Wow,
so
great
nice.
job, Kev. That was awesome.
I'm
Later,
impressed.
backed up by a good friend of ours who I'm sure we'll talk about in this podcast, who does frames in that very style.
So, yes, that is the theme of the episode today on the Justuff League. You have Mr. James Supp, Kevin Bruno, the one and only producer Kyle, and my name is Travis. So today,
Howdy,
framing, why is that so important? We're talking framing not of building a house, but framing of that of fine art, works on paper, paintings, how to properly frame, what's a bad frame, and how you can totally screw up your investment if you do it the wrong way.
Right. Well, to start off, I'm going to say
Go ahead.
that James should start.
Well
played,
I was about
well
to say, framing is a really fascinating subject because it's available at all sorts of price points. You can go get Michael's 2-for-1 coupons and pay like $50 to get 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper framed, or you can spend thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars getting a custom frame and matte done with amazing glass, for your artwork. And there's so many options. It really can be kind of challenging to break down which ones you should choose and which ones you actually need. And how much should you spend on this stuff?
I think go ahead.
Go, Kev.
I think frames sort of break down into a couple different areas. Like there's decorative frames, and there are styles of frames that are appropriate for paintings and styles of frames that are not appropriate for paintings. Just because they're gold gilt or they're painted white or whatever, a design of a frame has a lot of time to do with the history when those frames were made for certain types of paintings. So it's important to pick out your frame accordingly for the type of painting you have. And then after that, there's frames for investment. There's really frames that are worth money. So
James, that's like basing off of how Kevin ended it and what you said in the beginning of where you get it done and how you get it done is huge. So prime example, all my art friends used to think I was nuts because I started my framing experience with Michaels. I was good, but
Like most people do.
And granted, Michaels is typically a horrible place to get things framed. But however, I did have my girl Sammy there.
You got lucky.
I did. Yes. I mean, this girl aspired to be a framer. She wanted to have her own frame shop. She now does, but she's all the way in like Groton, Connecticut. She's very far away, so I had to switch framers because once Sam left Michael's and I had like my last 3 or 4 things framed there, it was absolutely horrible. And prime example,
it was like a bobsled ride.
it just came back to me on a painting. Listen to this. So I had a pair of paintings that were on wood panel. And it's a wood panel mounted on a wood stretcher. And I wanted them shadow box framed. I was like, could you please hang them shadow box style, put a mat that comes up. Well, come to find out, they actually took like sheetrock screws and drilled directly through the frame like the stretcher support of the painting, and even into the back of the board. How they did that and without going through the painting is so the guy who bought this painting from me, he bought it like a year and a half went by. He bought it, he resold it. The person who bought it from him took it apart to get it reframed. It was like, what the hell? Look at what happened to how this was framed. So I no longer go to Michael's.
Was it an old painting on panel, or was it a modern piece, or
It was a contemporary painting.
They just took the liberty to sort of drill through the back of it.
Right. There is almost no standard. That's the biggest problem I have with Michael's or these other big box shops is there is no consistency. It's completely random. You could get a really great Sammy who really is excited about their job and wants to do a good job. And then you get the people who just want to make their minimum wage and be done with it.
Then that fucking Lulu.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
yeah. And they will destroy your paintings. They will destroy your prints. I've had some 16th century woodcuts. This was years and years ago. It was my very first woodcut. It was probably an 18th century impression of a 16th century woodcut. And I took it over to Michael's, spent like $150 getting this little thing framed. And yeah, they just used spray adhesive and glued it to a piece of foam core. Freaking ruined the damn thing. I mean, after a couple years, I'm looking like, why is it spotting underneath? Because they applied a heavy layer of some sort of adhesive and glued it on. It cost hundreds of dollars to get it taken apart. So don't go anyone you don't know. Get a recommendation. Go to a professional framing shop. It's worth the money.
Hey, I will say, not that I'm looking to give free advertising on our podcast, but I had to go. Like, I went through a drought where there was like 9 months I wasn't getting anything framed because I had nowhere to go. And then I ended up through my brother. My brother had a friend who collected contemporary art who's also on the board of the Worcester Art Museum. And he's like, oh, go to Gaston's Framing. They do all the framing for the museum. So good. They use all the proper archival materials, properly tabbing things. Like, oh, do you want glass? Do you want a plexiglass? Do you want the museum non-glare? Everything is done correctly. And yeah, you do end up paying more. There's definitely something that would cost $150 at Michael's is $250 there. But you're getting the proper job.
Well, and on top of that, you got to go when you're shopping around to find your framer. Just as Kevin said, the gold frames I have in the paintings behind me, they're nice, but they would not be appropriate for a lot of contemporary art. Would be horrible for photographs. So you got to find someone who knows how to frame to your personal style and who reflects the way you want your paintings to look on your wall or your art to look on your wall.
So that's the teaser Kev gave at the beginning of the episode, because I need to, and this is somebody Kevin's known for a long time, so I'll let him give the introduction, but I require this gentleman's services very soon.
Well, not to jump into him yet, but one of the things that I do want to go after is I really feel it's important to touch if we're talking about frames is a lot of people have to understand that there are actual styles to frames that match styles of paintings. So you really want to talk with somebody who knows paintings to show you, if you have a French Impressionistic frame, then you might really want to look into those style of frames that the French were using during that time, rather than something from the 1960s that's whitewashed. You might want something more 1920s, sort of like the frames that have like finished corners and maybe another little element in the middle. Do you know what I'm saying? They have like an added element to the corners and an element in the middle. Like that's beautiful in a whitewash on like a French painting from the 20s or the teens, but would look horrible, like you said, on a modern painting or like a folk art painting or a Hudson Valley River School painting. It would just look terrible. So you definitely have to understand the different styles of painting and what's sort of apropos for each sort of different type of painting and style too.
Actually, one thing I want to mention is, why do we get our pictures framed? I mean, and having just a simple canvas on the wall, it's not very. It doesn't really highlight it very well. Having that frame can bring a lot. I don't think of the right word.
It makes it pop.
It can bring. Yeah.
It makes
it breaks it up from the wall a little bit.
Good frame, yeah. Just frames it off and gives you like looking through the window, looking through this decorative element to see that object. And a lot of times when you have modern art, you don't want to look through a decorative object. You just want a very plain frame to look through, something that shows the simplicity maybe of the modern style art rather than something extravagant or over the top.
Well, like modern photographs, actually any photographs, black and white, almost always look better with a simple black frame or simple chrome or nickel frame. They tend to not look very good with elaborate frames most of the time.
Definitely not like a brown wood frame. Definitely nothing like that. Photographs do not look good in those type of frames unless you're looking at a photograph that's old, yellowed from the turn of the century from an old factory or an old Model A. Then yes, they do look cool in those type of frames.
Yeah, get the old barnwood or something like that.
Yeah, but you got to get that right element for what you're trying to achieve, and that helps that painting pop with that picture.
And a good frame will help you out with that. The other reason is that frame protects the edges. Like if you have a canvas painting, that canvas is wrapped around these wooden stretchers, and if that gets knocked off the wall or it can get damaged, torn, what have you. So the edges of the frame protect the sides of the canvas, and the glass in the front protects your paintings from ultraviolet light that'll cause it to fade. It'll prevent dust and fingerprints and what have you from getting on it. But sometimes getting glass on the front of the painting or print is a bad idea. Can you guys think of any cases for that? Why you wouldn't have glass protecting it?
Well, a lot of people put glass on watercolors, and I find that to be fine. But if you're going to put glass in front of a painting, you have to put a buffer between the glass and the actual painting itself. So you have to have some sort of like specially cut mat that's no bigger than the rabbet of the frame to hide in there to pull that glass up off the painting to protect it. And if you're going to put one, you usually put like a non-skewer glass, because if you're oily painting in the back, the oil paint has any sheen, and then you have a shiny glass in front of it, you have nothing but a bunch of reflection going on. So it's not a very good look. So,
well, like if we look over, producer Kyle's shoulder, he's got that lovely Dragon Ball Z poster up there. And when we first started about this topic, what can you tell us about it, producer Kyle?
So this is an original print of a Dragon Ball movie poster, and when I found it on eBay, I was like, "Oh, this is like one of the few nice, like rare Dragon Ball artifacts that I can add to my collection, right? Like protect the investment a little bit." So the type of frame that I have here, the glass on it is meant to like reduce any sort of UV ray protection that could potentially damage the actual poster itself. So blocking out that sunlight. They also gave me, which I think is kind of like a hint of a future episode. They also gave me these really nice gloves to use that if you're watching us on YouTube, which you should be, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, go subscribe. There's a link in the show notes.
Nice.
They gave me these nice gloves to be able to handle it because this glass is.
And Travis, why are you laughing?
It's just ridiculous. We'll save it for that episode, but that's okay.
We totally will.
That's actually
I'm
important.
fit my fat fucking hands into this thing for that episode. Okay, make sure you subscribe so you get all the new episodes of the Justuff League. I'll turn everything into a plug. Travis, don't interrupt me. This glass, you have to be careful when you handle it. Hence the gloves. You know why you put a Dragon Ball poster in glass like that? Because Dragon Ball rules. Anyway, what were you going to say, Travis?
What I was going to say is, well, no, I'll leave that for the white glove episode. But interesting enough, framing, though, like contemporary art, all these are just canvases. No frames, just gallery wrapped, around the stretcher. And I notice a lot of people don't frame canvases as much, but works on paper you have to frame.
Well, they don't frame modern works. It was a thing that started like probably, I don't know, whenever in the 50s, 60s, where people started painting modern type artworks and not putting a frame on them, or just a very thin piece of 1/4-inch wood all the way around them that was maybe painted white.
Yeah,
or nothing at all. Right.
Strap wood frame.
Strap around it. But yeah, so what you're doing has been going on for a while, and that's kind of with modern works. You wouldn't normally see that on like a folk art portrait or a impressionist painting or a still life. That's always going to be framed, in my opinion. But just like behind me, you see, I don't have my paintings framed either, but they're modern, contemporary. They're
honestly, I think part of it is because they're trying to. Someone decided that the frame detracted from the artwork itself, or some such. I just think someone actually got lazy, got tired of getting their stuff framed, and everyone went, "Hey, that looks kind of cool. I'm going to be cheap too. I'm not going to get my stuff framed either."
Well, think of it this way, which is so interesting. Okay, you buy prints, right, to frame it, but then when prints like Warhol's, Herring's, Lichtenstein's, all those come up at auction, the minute they're framed, it's worth less money because now in the condition, it's like, oh, tab residue on back, slight age difference, like color, where because it was a matte or whatever, it's slightly, the white is different. So now there's condition issues where the prints that sell for the most money are the ones that are never framed, but yet you're supposed to buy this stuff to frame it and display it.
Well,
Right.
no,
It's
most
like
of
anything you use.
those prints that have never been framed have been in storage, have been in a drawer for the last 2 decades, and they're going to end up back in a drawer in storage for the next 2 decades.
More than likely.
I mean,
But
those
it's
are
true,
those
though.
are blue chip investments. They're no longer displayable art.
And it's
Oh,
not
that's
the
crazy.
fact that it's different, but when you sell it, you always have to sell them without the frame because people want to see what condition the paper is in because the frame and the matting can hide a lot. So they want to make sure
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
not trimmed or there's tears and all that different stuff that's being
Hey.
hid under a mat.
Look at all the animation cells we're selling. I took them all out of the frames.
Yeah, you'll get more money.
Unless they're unless the frames specifically add value, like the Disney Courvoisier cells and things like that show where it came from. Almost never does the framing job add any value, especially with prints.
We recently consigned an old advertising print to an auction house, and the frame that was on it actually had carved into it the name of the product that was being advertised on the print that we were selling. What
Yeah,
was the name of the?
Pyrographed. It was
It was
the white
pyrographed,
cider.
yeah. Some cider from 1890, and it was pyrographed
That's
in
cool.
there, but like from factory, not like some person did it. Like beautiful.
Yeah, it was the
And
original
they
branded.
still took it out of the frame and sold it without the frame, and just said
What
in
a
the
bunch of
description
maroons.
with frame, not even mentioning that it had a matching like
Yeah,
lithograph
factory
pyrograph
frame.
to go with it. So there you go.
No.
There's a lot of times they don't want to sell the frame with it, even though that frame was special. You're going to get that frame when you get it, but it's not even being talked about in the auction. A frame is a
That
very
is really
personal thing for
weird.
people.
Well, like with producer Kyle, he spent what, $150 getting your poster framed with the UV glass.
Probably in that
Give or take?
vicinity, yeah. I think it might
Yeah.
have been like $170. I remember paying. I have the invoice around here somewhere. I think I put it on my taxes because
Probably
Dragon
Wow,
Ball
Nice.
170.
But
That's a
that's
little
about right
expensive.
for a poster.
Yeah.
But
For
that's what you're
poster
going
with
to go in.
UV?
You're going to pay retail just because you know
Yeah.
somebody in the trade. You can't say that that's expensive.
No, it's not that I don't even know somebody. I mean, I get like a little bit of a high volume discount, but I mean, like the last
24
thing.
by 36 piece of glass, a UV glass. It might even be a museum
Oh,
glass.
that's big.
And that's
24 by
expensive.
36.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I had framed there was a 22 by 30 work on paper. They floated it, non-glare glass with like a maple frame around it, just simple like modern maple, and it was like I want to say 260 or 270,
Yeah.
something like that.
That's in the range.
Yeah.
But it's honestly, the glass is as expensive as every other part. And the highest grade glass is called museum glass. It's UV protective, non-glare. It's amazing stuff. It's also 4 times the price of any other glass.
So listen to that. I had a painting that was it's on canvas. It's 30 by 40, but this artist uses flash paint, and flash paint is this very high sheen, high gloss finish, bright acrylic. And even once the paint dries, it forever has like a very tacky characteristic to it. So dirt can get stuck in it really simply. And, when I was doing work with this artist, he'd be like, oh, if dirt gets on it, just take like a brush and kind of, brush it off and smudge it out in case anything gets on it. But so I got a painting from him and I had to have it framed. It was 30 by 40 canvas, had it set with museum glass, everything. That was the most expensive thing I ever had framed. And it was like, I want to say $800, something like that.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But you had to get it done because it's a condition hazard to leave it unframed.
Well, and that's one of the things, like with a lot of paintings, they're meant to not seal it away from the world, but prevent dust from getting on it. That's why they'll have paper on the back, just kind of to keep the dust out. I mean, I don't. It's not hermetically sealed. It's not going to keep. It's got to be able to breathe a little bit.
You know, but now that you say that keyword, the paper on the back, that's just a rule of thumb. If you buy art secondary at auction or anything estate sale, and it's an old frame job and it has acidic paper, or you have to make sure you get it reframed because that acid's just going to burn through and really damage your work.
A lot of the old framers literally used like pine boards and early cardboard, which is hugely acidic. You literally see the pattern of the cardboard in the back of your piece of artwork. It's like crazy, like that wave pattern, all the way through it.
Yeah, that
so,
corrugation.
The corrugation look all the way through it'll look like, corrugated was burned on there.
And that's a great point. Even the matte paper you see on a lot of prints, dude, even stuff as recent as the 90s and early 2000s, it isn't all acid free. I mean, you've always got to pull it open and double check it because there's no guarantee.
Oh, unless you request all acid free, they're not going to give you all acid free. A lot of them just use regular stuff,
which is acid full.
Yeah, exactly.
Just acid full paper. Can I get your most acid filled paper possible?
Actually, I don't know if you guys can see it, but the print behind me right here is I had to get that rematted. Because it was burned from the acid. If you look underneath the white paper of the print, it's all brown from the paper matting. So I had to get everything pulled out, get it rebacked, what have you. It can destroy and prints and make them turn brown, brittle, and absolutely do horrible things to the value.
Oh, yeah. Once it burns, it burns. It's very expensive to have any type of conservation work done.
Yeah. And that just goes around. They just always make sure it's archival quality. Always make sure that it is done by somebody you trust whose style you approve of. Because, like Kevin said, it's a very personal decision. Everyone's got their own taste. I mean,
I have a painting right now that I have to bring to Kevin's guy because it's a John Joseph Enneking, like American Impressionist, whatever. Landscape, not even impressionist, very romanticist actually.
Have you ever heard of the frame maker Motika? M-O-Y?
No.
T-Y-K-A. His name is Steve Moitika. You can look him up. His frames are world renowned, actually. Moitika frame, M-O-I-T-Y-K-A, Steve Moitika frames. And he creates the most unbelievable frames, plein air style, early impressionist style, gilding, carved, all hand carved, all finished corners. Just if you have a great painting, that's where you want to take it to have the proper frame put on it. He has a stock of old frames that he collects tons of old frames just to get the style of carving so he can reduplicate and use that type of stuff. Yeah, that's him. Is he up there? Is that him?
This is it.
Yeah, it's Motika, M-O-T-Y-K-A.
Yeah, M-O-T-Y-K-A, Motika. And he's a world-renowned framer. All his frames are hand-carved right in his place in Central Falls. We spent a couple days there a couple weeks ago looking through all sorts of stuff. It was pretty fun. And I even got to learn to carve.
I love the antique and vintage frames that you can buy. And a good frame maker will have a stock of hundreds of old ones.
Oh, yeah. He's got tons of them that he uses patterns off of, and they copy the patterns, and they slightly change them and make new ones depending on what the people want. But I got to use the tools, and so did Trav. Oh, it's like cutting with butter. It's unbelievable how beautiful it is to use.
It's amazing what a sharp tool will do.
Oh, it's amazing. I was able to make fillets and these crazy lines like leaves. It was really neat. It was very cool.
Oh, yeah. I need a nice arts and crafts frame like that right there,
so
baby.
many different styles. I mean, and like I said, he's got several hundred probably different styles of frames that he has access to, plus all the ones that he can make.
It's unlimited of whatever you want to have on a frame or the style you want. You just create a frame.
And as a consumer, you don't know enough. You'll never know enough to know what looks good. Trust these guys. They know what they're doing.
Right. You want your painting to look appropriate. And it doesn't have to be an old junky frame from 1920s. It can be the style of a 1920s frame that should be around that painting that looks good in a modern home today.
Right.
It's going to
Or
look
even a
fabulous.
Maxfield Parrish.
Right.
Do you want a fancy chrome work around your Maxfield Parrish print? No, you probably want an Art Nouveau style frame around it, and bronzes and golds. I mean, you want something that'll highlight
flowy lines on
qualities of
it,
Yeah.
like cool, like frame. Exactly.
Should I just start the trend and start getting all these contemporary paintings framed in gilt arts and crafts frames with like the nice little name tag? It says like Derek Aylward, Gideon Apa, whatever, Raphael Dela Cruz. And it's all like frame them in that traditional style.
Yes.
See what they look like.
Well, isn't that what the guy who paints butterflies does? What's his name there?
Hunt Slaughter.
Hunt Slaughter uses all old frames on his contemporary paintings.
Yeah, they look really cool. He goes crazy buying paintings.
I actually really like
frames, sports paintings.
I like it when the artists themselves has a hand in designing the frame. There's a fellow who does it looks like tattoo flash art paintings. But what he'll do is with the frame itself, he'll hand carve little details into it that kind of reflect the imagery of whatever he's doing. If he's doing a nautical theme tattoo flash, it'll have like little dolphins and sailors and knots and stuff on the edges of the frame. Those are a really great touch, and it's from the artist himself. And that's always a huge thing for me.
Yeah, how about that time during the 1900s when people would pyrography frames? And I think there was like this colony up in Maine that they would do these pyrography frames, like with maybe cherries or whatever design. And then they would hand paint also that carved in sort of design. And then they would also bring the hand painted design into the mirror.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Those are amazing. And oh God, wasn't Penland? It was one of the artist schools up there.
Yeah,
on one of the islands.
Like up in Maine somewhere or something. But anyways, that's like the frame is part of the artwork when done properly. It looks good. It looks great. And one of the best places, I mean, I would have to bring up Matika again. You go there and you just look at his frames on the artwork, and he puts, the corner on it, or he puts the whole frame. It's like, oh wow, the painting just talks to you.
And the experience of going in there and having the guys look at your art piece and go, oh, they'll grab a bunch of corner pieces and try to show you what it's going to look like. And some even have these fancy computer programs that'll do a Photoshop mock-up or what have you. I mean, they can really help you nail down what you want it to look like.
I need a frame. I got to go frame shopping.
I've been framed.
I need a frame. We got to go back there. I'm just thinking now, I hate the frame. I'm going to walk downstairs when we're done filming this podcast, and every time I walk down my stairs, I just go, I hate the frame on that painting. Every time.
You can fix that.
That's actually kind of a nice way to end the show here today, is now that you know that you have some kind of frame situation you got to fix, Travis, what have you learned from the last 30 minutes that can help you in picking your new frame to wrap it up for the listener or viewer on YouTube? Check it out. Link in the show notes.
Travis just blanked.
He doesn't know what he got. What I learned from it.
Okay, Kev, you could learn some stuff too. Fuck Travis.
No, go.
I learned that I personally would definitely go see somebody who knows what they're doing and pay the little bit of extra money to get it done right and to get it looking right. Because if you want to invest in your artwork and have a decent looking home with things that look right, let the person who knows what they're doing do it. Then do it.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah.
Amen. That's it.
Is that what you learned,
like
Travis?
No,
Don't
I
have
feel
it done
like
this month. Have it done in 2 months from now and save the extra $100.
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I'm a veteran framer. Like I just feel like I'm constantly framing, and now because I have to go to
you're not a veteran framer. You're a veteran driver.
I'm a veteran driver to the frame shop.
You're
Yes.
a veteran consumer of framing services.
I'm a really good driver.
Yeah, I have like a framer now that I'm so happy with, but it's just a pain in the ass to get to. So every time I go, I want to make sure I don't go for one piece. I have to go for like 3 to 5 pieces, and I'm up to 3 things that I need to bring between Kevin and myself. But I'm waiting to find like one more thing I have coming in the mail that I need to get framed.
Spending some money at that framer.
Yeah, well, you have 2.
I have 2. Shit.
Yeah, you do. You have your James Ulmer,
Yep.
And then you have the drawing of the girl that's naked in the bride dress.
I do.
Wait, drawing of the girl that's naked in a dress? Go
It's
on.
a boy, in my opinion.
It's a girl who's wearing like a bridal veil and her dress, but the dress is half down and she's got these like beautiful, perfect
So
titties
she's
just out.
wearing half
I
a
remember
bridal
that.
dress with her boobies out. Got it. Not a
Yeah,
naked
I gotta
woman
have
wearing
that.
a dress. That's a whole other thing that you said beforehand. Very
I'm up to
confusing.
3 things that I need, and then I have a little drawing I got to get framed, but I got something else. So 4 pieces, that's enough to, because it takes like 45 minutes to get there.
And at
It's on
least
the
4
tool-
of those pieces, 2 of them we know for a fact now are boobies. Make
No,
sure that you
only
rate and
one's
subscribe.
boobies.
Oh no, I meant because 1, 2. You know what I mean? There's
Oh
boobies
no,
with-
Kevin's other
Considered a
drawing.
pair.
Kevin's other painting is of like a snake charmer.
Of course it is.
It's a dude standing sideways between 2 snakes.
Of Mr. T.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I
Mr.
gotta go to
T.
the framer. It's long
Time-
overdue.
It's been a good discussion to get Travis to go to the framer. In the meantime, if you're a listener to the show, make sure you rate and subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're now on YouTube if you want to watch us talk about stuff and occasionally bring up a screen share of like auction stuff that we talk about. It's kind of cool. Check it out. There's a link in the show notes. And we will see you next Tuesday. I said what I said. Justuff, leave.
Peace.